Hello guys, and welcome to our first lesson for the Microsoft Excel series here at Learn.io. Today we're just going to be talking about some of the basic terminology of Excel as well as just how to get started in Excel. If you're on Mac, you might not have Microsoft Excel, but you can follow along easily using Google Sheets. So without further ado, let's get started. So when you open up Excel, you'll see this screen right here. And you can see there's already some tutorials given here. What we're going to be doing is just a basic overview. If you want to understand some more in-depth skills, some more specific knowledge, I do recommend having a look at some of these tutorials that Excel provides. Google Sheets doesn't do the same though, so if you're using Google Sheets, you may not have access to those. But yeah, so when you get started, first thing you're going to want to do is either select a template, or for our case right now, we're just going to start with a blank workbook. And so you can see that opens up into this really complicated looking spreadsheet. So let's go over some basic terminology so that we can start working. So each of these A, B, C, D is a column on the spreadsheet, and each of these numbers represents a row. So you can see if I highlight this square right here in the corner, it shows me that I'm on B2. It's because I'm on column B and row 2. Notice columns will always be letters and rows will always be numbers. So this box B2 is actually called a cell. So I could say I'm on cell right now, D4. I could say I'm on cell B2. And this whole spreadsheet that you see, all of this, all the way down to infinity, is called a sheet because it's a sheet in a workbook. So this whole document is called a workbook. You can see down here, I'm on sheet 1. If I wanted to open another sheet, I just press this plus, and now I have a second sheet where I can do even more calculations. I can make the first sheet maybe, if I'm doing finances, for example, I could make this my income statement. I could make the second sheet a profit and loss statement, so on and so forth. So that's just some basic terminology to keep in mind. And when you're trying to just enter information, basic information, if you just need to store some numbers or some values, it's pretty simple. You can just click on a cell and type out your information. So let's say I have, I want to keep track of inventory. So I just I write the word inventory at the top so I know, or for example, I write, item on the top. I say, okay, pencils. And then next to it, I can write the number. I could write, I have 12 pencils. If I really wanted to, I could write that I have 12 pencils in words. It takes any characters. You can type in asterisks, you can type in equals, plus, whatever you want. Just keep in mind that if you write 1 plus 1, it won't write 2, it'll write actually 1 plus 1. There is a special way to write formulas in Excel, but we'll get into that at a later date. So that's basically just how to enter information. You type in whatever you want. Keep in mind, if you highlight a field and you start that already has information on it and you start typing, it won't add it to the end of whatever you've written. It'll replace what you've written. That's really important. So with that in mind, just remember that Control-Z on a PC or Command-Z on Mac is undo. If you forget that, there's always the undo button up here and the redo button right next to it. So now that we know how to input information, actually, before we move on, if you want to add stuff to the end of what you're writing or in the middle of what you're writing, you can go up here to what's called the formula bar. You can see this is what we have written. Put your cursor on there, and then you can move around and add stuff into the middle of your text. So let's say I have pencils here, and I want to make this number pencils. So I can just type number off before it. But you see here, it's cutting off the rest of the phrase. So if I go to A and go right to the edge between A and B, I can actually manually increase the width of this column so that it's large enough. Now if I double click this gap between the two, it'll automatically size it to the largest piece of text or number within that column. The same applies for these rows, although typically that won't be as much of an issue when you're dealing with spreadsheets. So now that we know how to enter some information, how to edit just some column lengths to make it legible, let's talk about saving. This isn't Google Sheets, this isn't Google Drive, it doesn't automatically save your work. Of course, if you are in Google Sheets, this won't really be an issue for you since Google automatically saves everything that you do. But on Excel, you want to go to File, Save As, and then find a place to save it. For me, I'm just going to save this to my desktop. I'm going to name this example. You can name it whatever you want, so long as it's not a name that you've already given to a different spreadsheet. And then just click the Save button right here, and it'll save it. So after the first time you save as, all you have to do to save it, so let's say I make some changes. Hello, hi. I've made some changes to the spreadsheet. Now anytime you want to save those changes, you just have to click Control S on PC or Command S on Mac. Or you could just go File and Save, and it'll automatically save it to that location where you save as before. But I think that's enough for this lesson. Next time we're going to be talking about some basic operations in Excel, how to add stuff, subtract things, and how to copy paste different pieces of information. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Thank you.